I'm here today with Dikshant Dave. He's the CEO of Zigment, and Zigment's a tech company helping nonprofits use AI in accessible, ethical, impactful ways. Here at the BBB Wise Giving Alliance, we've always been exploring how emerging technology can help donors, can help charities, especially tools that are built with values of transparency and trust. At the center. So we're very excited to be working with Zigment and welcome Dikshant.
Thank you, Ezra. Nice connecting with you here again, and thanks for having me here.
Great. So just to jump right into it, so Zigment has worked with large businesses, large enterprises, medium businesses. You're interested in the nonprofit space. What got you interested in working with charities and nonprofits?
Yeah, interesting question. With the AI, Agentic AI to be specific, our moat or the driver has been that you can now do a lot more with very little resources than you could possibly kind of do it, early in the previous, pre-LLM era. Now, when we talk to kind of enterprises, of course, there is interest. There are, a lot of because there is a monetary aspect, there is an aspect of kind of revenue bump or kind of saving costs. For us, when we were looking at mapping out like who benefits from this technology the most, nonprofits somehow like this, and this was not by design, like this was just on our exercise that like nonprofits started surfacing up when we started looking slightly deeper into the space and talking to people like you included. We realized that like how nonprofits have been functioning and then having to do so many things, so many activities with very little resources. Most people are kind of volunteering to kind of spending some time. That makes it challenging to actually do a lot of activities and then kind of give them all that you have to bring in results. So we thought that this would be a right fit for AI. And of course, there was this angle that, if you could do, good in this world, then that should be the priority anyway. So I think that got us here.
Yeah, I think in the charity space, in the nonprofit space, we always appreciate when a company kind of understands who we are, as we are different than just for-profit companies and meets us where we are that way. And I guess getting into it, you've already built a tool for 2 of our BBB accredited charities. What have you learned from working with nonprofits? What do you see as some of the issues or some of the things that have come up through those processes?
Sure. It is such a drastic departure from how for-profit companies function and kind of nonprofits work. The objectives are kind of different. And it took us some time and of course, like, a steeper learning curve in terms of just absorbing, the aspects of what drives a nonprofit and what are the top objectives. For example, like in for-profit businesses, it's usually about numbers most of the times. Like, you got to kind of, just keep improving on numbers. And that kind of occupies almost 80% of your, target. 20% is everything else. It's kind of reverse in nonprofits. So, nonprofit, it is like we are driven by this particular value, and we are driven by this is our ethos. That organization functions with, and that is paramount. That is like most important thing. Everything else is kind of secondary. And of course, we want to kind of deliver numbers. You want to kind of make if you're implementing technology, if you're investing time and money and resources, you want to see the impact, but it should not be at a cost of what you stand for as an organization. And we have working with Hope for Ukraine and KABOOM, are 2 of the BBB accredited nonprofits. There's been great learning. Both the parties and both the kind of partners have been fantastic. They've been very forthcoming, looking at technology to deploy and then solving and really being ahead of the curve in that sense. We've We figured, I mean, we've learned quite a bit, of course. One of the things that with HFU, we've kind of figured that the AI, the agent, like, what kind of issues that a nonprofit kind of, faces, right? So, I mean, each nonprofit probably is similar in a way, but has a very unique set of problems, and then they would be different. And we've been able to put AI, to a good use to kind of solving a very specific problem, for HFU. And that's been kind of, qualifying, like, empathetically, addressing concerns from their, audience, and, delivering answers, kind of, helping them make a, decision, in a
Mm-hmm.
lot of cases providing information. But all in all, making sure that you, as an AI, is an extension of the same principles, same values, that organization stands for. And so implementing that at an AI level and making sure that it functions not most of the times, but all the time,
Mm-hmm.
has been like a journey, but we've kind of loved every step of that journey.
Yeah, and we were excited to be a part of that journey, kind of in those initial conversations between Zigment and these charities, and seeing how both your staff and the charities staff, weren't like, okay, we want to use AI for AI's sake. They said, we have a specific problem that we want to solve. Can AI do this? And your staff was able to kind of envision kind of a path towards helping, and it seems like in both cases it's turned out well. So I guess to get more specific, what sort of solutions does Zigment offer? Like what does your AI actually do? What sort of problems can it help solve for nonprofits, for charities?
Okay, great question, and thanks for asking that, Ezra. So, I think from what we have seen, primarily the engagement with your potential donors, volunteers, or general users who are coming onto your website or engaging with your social media channels, say for example, Instagram, or reaching out, sending SMS, or in any way trying to kind of get in touch with you. What we've seen is that because of, having like a scarcity of resources in engaging with these people, with these potential users, donors, or volunteers, uh, what happens is that the communication kind of starts taking a backseat, in the sense that if you got a like an inquiry on a Friday evening, the
Mm-hmm.
earliest that you're going to respond to that query is probably Monday. And what happens there is that it could be a missed opportunity in form of a donor, somebody like, driving donations is hard, we all understand now. So missing out on such opportunities is kind of expensive for most organizations. And so what we do is we create a, the first level of engagement, between the organization and their potential users, and we deploy AI to kind of do that. And what happens because of this is that you are engaging with your potential users right at the time when they are kind of, interested in knowing more, kind of, asking questions, etc. And just by doing this with empathy, within the guardrails, making sure that you are kind of, still adhering to the values, philosophy of the organization, and yet trying to kind of, like answer, or kind of, address the questions and queries of the user. Just by doing that at that time, and then kind of, 24/7, definitely helps these organizations in converting more, getting more people kind of, interested in participating, whether it is volunteership or whether it is donation. So that's something that we have done. So we
Yeah.
become the first layer of interaction on the website, on social media, on SMS, whatever channels kind of, exist for a nonprofit. So that's our primary kind of a role.
So it's exciting. Right now, we're working with you and your team to build a 800 number chatbot. So we've been thinking about how we reach our audiences, right? So we have our website, but we wanted to go kind of beyond that, where we could send out a mailer and have a QR code and say, hey, if you want to ask a question about a charity, just text this number. and we've worked with your team to connect it to our the information on our website, also the information about charities, to the point where somebody can just text like, is Dikshant nonprofit a good nonprofit? And obviously, you've helped us work the language, because our values as an organization is, we don't say whether a nonprofit is good or bad. What we focus is on that accreditation process. So the chatbot will respond and say, well, they're an accredited charity. I don't tell you if an organization is good or bad, and then provides the link to go to the charity report so the donor can have more information.
But just to add to that, I think one of the things that we've seen, requiring or very important in this whole AI, agentification and engagement, is that there is some level of persuasion that is required. So now we don't want to kind of be pushy, at least not pushy or kind of forceful in that sense. But it is also not just kind of answering questions, that users have, right? So it would be otherwise a support function. But what is needed today is that you of course want to support, but you also want to kind of have some element of persuasion, and persuasion can be just meaningfully and in context, answering, guiding them, also preempting certain things that might happen, and then leading them into that thing, leading them further into, better decision that they would have. So I think that's been one of the kind of things that we at Zigment kind of focus on, and kind of difference from what other solutions offer. And you brought a right example that how at BBB it is kind of just having a very unbiased opinion about accreditation. But when it comes to organizations like HFU, where there is a drive that is required, a persuasion that is required, you just add a little bit of that element into conversations.
And I think one of the interesting things that your staff has showed me kind of along the way is the concept of multi-channel engagement with AI, and we haven't developed this with you, but you've shown, I guess your staff has shown me how it works kind of with businesses and other clients that you're working with, where someone can connect via, text message for the first time. And the system can record a kind of an identity associated with that contact. And then, when they call the next time, it also records that. If there's an email address associated, there can also be an email that connects, so that no matter how the person is contacting you, they're all kind of gathered into that same identity, and the conversation kind of continues over all of these different kind of channels. Could you give us an example of how that can work?
Sure. Yeah. So we call that conversation graph. And in the modern times, the times that we live in, any organization, a business or a nonprofit or a charity has a multiple touch points, right? We all exist like as a business, which we have our phone numbers, we have SMS, there would be articles published on a third party media about us, which would kind of lead people up, back to us. It could be your Instagram account, Facebook handle, pages, whatever. So a lot of places that a potential user could actually reach out to you, as a business. And one of the problems that we've seen is that generally so far, and this is across the board, like, profits, for profits and non-profits both, is that it's very hard to manage, that. And then usually even as a consumer, we have experienced that, like, usually you end up kind of providing that information again, somehow you wish that, like, oh, I had, like, I was here already, and just because I've come through a different medium, now you don't know me. So we call it a loss of context, like context kind of, misses out. And we thought as a Zigment, as a platform, that was one of the problems that we wanted to solve, that if you have multiple touch points, how do you now with Agentic AI, you solve for that, so Ezra coming to a website and later after 5 days kind of, commenting on a Instagram post, it is same Ezra. And whatever interaction that happened on a website, it's important that we carry forward that conversation or context back into the Instagram comment. So I know as a system, you got to understand that it's the same user, and then you already have certain information about that user. So, real example is, if you have multiple, touch points or multiple kind of Facebook, website, SMS, etc., we ensure that user coming from any point is understood as long as we have the information in the system, and the conversation basically continues from where you left last, no matter which channel or which kind of medium that was on. So, and as I said, we call it conversation graph because that's like a one universal timeline of all the events and activities and communication that has happened between the user and the organization. And we store it internally, so that stays, for forever. And basis that you could now have a far more richer engagement with that user, knowing that, okay, like Ezra had donated, for this organization like 3 years ago, and then there was no, connect. But like after now 3 years, he's asking some more questions, and that's very important that you kind of carry that forward and make that person felt, understand that, hey, that your donation helped us like immensely back then, and like, and then start a conversation or address, whatever concerns or queries you may have.
Yeah, I think one of the examples your staff walked me through was, let's say, a charity puts up something on Instagram saying that there's a volunteer experience available, and the person messages, "Hey, I want to be part of this." The AI bot can be like, "Great, which day works best for you, Tuesday or Wednesday?" The person, says Wednesday. "Oh, great, what time?" And they select a time, and then the bot again through Instagram can be like, "Okay, great. Now give me your email address and I'll send you confirmation, and give me your phone number and I'll send you a text to confirm the day before." And all of that can get stored into the charity's database, whether they're using Salesforce or Microsoft Dynamics or, things like this. And then the day before, the individual who's volunteering gets an email that day saying, "Hey, you're confirmed," and then the day before they get a text. And if they get the text and say, "Oh, actually, I can't make it at 8, can I do it at 9?" The AI knows exactly who they were from the Instagram conversation and says, "Sure, 9 is great. I'll send you another confirmation email." Let's say they're running late or something like that. They can reply to the email and say, "Oh, I'm 30 minutes late." And then the AI kind of knows who they are from all of these touch points, and can then send a follow-up message on Instagram the day afterwards and be like, "Hey, how was the volunteer experience? Did you enjoy it? Can you rate it?" And then afterwards say, "Oh, by the way, would you like to make a donation to our organization?" So that way to kind of reach people exactly where they are, chat with them on social media, because I think what we're seeing is like, a lot of people live on social media these days, and then to be able to kind of reach them on all of these different channels. When I saw that was just really cool for me to understand and see that technology is available now.
Wow, thank you for explaining that. You explained it far better than I could have, so thank you.
No. So one of the things at WJ, BBB Wise Giving Alliance, we think about a lot is trust. That's at the center of kind of our mission is, to help donors connect with trustworthy charities, to help charities demonstrate their trustworthiness. So when we think about, using tools ourselves, or talking to the charities we work with about using tools, I think trust is always at the center. It doesn't just matter that a solution is powerful. We also look at, whether it is trustworthy, and, whether, charities can feel good about working with it. We talk to a lot of charities and they say, "Hey, we want to start with AI, but we have concerns." We're a little confused. We don't know what's going to happen if we work with it. What would you say to charity staff, charity leadership, who have concerns, who think about trust and whether AI can be a reliable tool for them to kind of reach out and work with their donors, with their volunteers, these people that they've built these trusting relationships with?
Sure. Extremely pertinent point, and I think that the AI era, experiences with ChatGPT and hallucinations and all those things have taught us that there needs to be a guardrail, there needs to be layers that can
Mm,
it. I think back when we started Zigment, one of the primary, I would say, objectives of the company was that we have to kind of make sure that we deliver and kind of stay true on this aspect of trust,
hmm
because this is going to be like one of the biggest factors of whether people adopt this or not. And this was reinforced further when we had a conversation with you and kind of rest of the team at BBB. It was it was this, right, that like trust, the whole nonprofit and charity functions on trust. And everybody's like, whether it's volunteer, donor, all the parties kind of rely that they trust the system, they trust the kind of so that cannot be broken at any cost. uh, so I completely agree, and we've baked that
hmm
into the system. And one of the reasons for our success, so far, whatever limited success we've had, is that we've really focused very hard on trust element, and that is also part of like our product suite. So at a technical level, we have a very solid and robust set of guardrails. A module
mm
that controls how is AI behaving. Are the responses aligned with the organization's set of principles, compliances,
hmm
and even the larger regulatory framework that the system exists in. So the guardrails function, and then they kind of make sure that there is always that set kind of is delivered to the end user. The second
hmm
aspect is of ensuring the data kind of privacy and making sure that data is safe. Now,
Yeah.
we've we implemented again very very highest level of data security standards and even our own internal compliance setup. We are affiliated with ISO and SOC 2, GDPR, because we want to make sure that we are doing everything best in our capacity to make sure that the
hmm
data is safe. In fact, to an extent where some of the larger enterprise deals with even in nonprofits, we make sure that once the system is built and set up, we give the entire control and access to the business owners, like administrative rights to them, where even
mm
our engineers, if they have to kind of go and fix certain things, it will be audited and it will be based on the request kind of sent to the admin of the system, which will be from the organization side. So this is just to ensure that there is a complete audit trail of everything that happens into the system. So yeah, I think, I mean, we take it very seriously, and I guess that's something that we've got a lot of help from you also in terms of like
hmm
aspects and what are the things that we should kind of take care in implementation.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things, like I said before, trust is at the center of what we do, and we have our standards for how we, we work with the charities and whatnot. So when we first talked about collaborating, we went and looked at your documentation, and we saw, like you mentioned, the SOC 2, the ISO, even like the HIPAA compliance. We're like, okay, that's good. But then beyond that, we saw that you have, all of these policies. You have a whole page dedicated to trust. And from a technical sense, that's good. But then from a practical sense too, having conversations with your staff and saying, okay, when somebody texts the 800 number and asks for a charity's information or a link to their report, how does the AI make sure that it's the actual information, the actual report? And your staff explained, well, the way AI works is that there's one AI that gathers the question and then sends it to another to gather the information. And before giving the response, there's another AI that double checks the information. So as understanding kind of from the technical standpoint, but then also structurally that your AIs are built to kind of double check their answers was also important for us because, if somebody asks about Dikshant's charity and the AI gives false information, we're betraying the trust of the charities who submit information to us. So we have to be very careful to make sure, it's not hallucinating, about the information it's sharing. So that was, I think, something that brought a lot of comfort to us when we were thinking about it.
And I know that, I mean, you guys kind of, made it very clear that these systems will have to be, aligned with, BBB's kind of, policies on how it handles information. So we made sure that we kind of bake that into the product, and we use those same policies that you use, for your internal systems.
So kind of getting towards the end here, just be a more abstract question. For nonprofits, mission is always central, and then working with people is always central. And the way the mission gets done is through the people who work at the nonprofits, the mission-driven people. So humans are kind of at the center of all this work that happens. How do you think about AI and humans? Like, is AI going to replace humans in nonprofits? How can nonprofits keep that kind of human element when they're using AI? How do you think about that? I know this is like a huge question everybody's thinking about now, but I think for our sector especially, it's important because, it's the humans who run the organization that make it meaningful, that, push the mission forward, and then the humans that people work with. Will AI kind of get in the way of those connections, or will it help establish more? How do you think about that?
Yeah, great question. I think, yeah, quite fundamental at that. So we believe that, like, as an organization, there are so many things that as humans, we've not been able to do. We kind of just the example that I gave you earlier, that if there is a Friday 11 p.m. that you get an inquiry from a user, it is nearly impossible to have a staff or like a team that's going to kind of be there available. It doesn't make business viability, first of all, and also it feels excessive. So it's very important. It's difficult to do a lot of things today, and there are so many gaps and voids that the businesses or organizations leave it out because they're hard to do, or they are kind of just too expensive or resourceful. So I think there are so many of such things right now that we can think of AI as the place or the kind of tool to allow us to kind of do that, something that we were not able to do earlier. What happens then is that the time availability and from your existing staff or humans who are kind of doing it is now can be channeled to doing most important things. And I think those most important things will become even more important, which is, if somebody needed just an information, probably AI can handle it, handle that information provision. But then when it comes to having an actual discussion, human staff is far more equipped knowing that, okay, this is the conversation that happened, and then deliver or take that conversation further. So I feel like, HFU's example, I remember, Yuri, the CEO, kind of telling our staff that most of the time just went into kind of addressing the queries which were non-relevant, but still as a business you want to kind of hold on to answering these queries in whatever capacity, and a lot of time would just go wasted in their staff just answering these queries which would be not relevant. And as a solution, we've just addressed that. Like, we've not taken anything away from what they would be doing. We've just taken that something that was irrelevant or was not so relevant and helpful for their staff to be engaged in. We've taken that and kind of deployed AI, and their staff kind of continues doing like things that they would like to do just in a better capacity.
Yeah, and talking with Yuri, he said that using AI has freed up staff time, answering these irrelevant questions to do more of the mission relevant work and, answer the questions that they're more aligned with, with their mission and everything.
Exactly, exactly. And I think that's I think all of us should look at AI as a tool and a resource that allows us to do that now. Uh, I think humans are smarter. Like they are way smarter. Like we will evolve with this. Now that we have something that can take care of a lot of these low-lying or underlying things to do, we will kind of elevate ourselves quickly onto some higher on more fulfilling tasks
Yeah,
eventually.
and more of those kind of human to human connections, free up
Yeah,
time for
exactly.
for what matters, building those relationships, building that trust in your organization and your brand. I think that's how we think about it too. Um, well, Dikshant, thank you so much for taking this time with us today. We're really excited to collaborate with Zigment, and also kind of share your work and your experience with the charities that we work with, and help our charities explore AI in ways that are responsible, affordable, aligned with their missions. So I'd encourage anyone who wants to learn more to please reach out to Dikshant and his team. There'll be information, on this page or in the YouTube comments description. And any last words, Dikshant?
No, I think thanks. You kind of summed it very well. Last thing that I would like to say is that, yeah, I mean, we are here and we kind of, in this journey over the last, I would say, a year and a half, we've
Mhm.
understood, the nonprofit side fairly well. Association with you and partnership with, Wise Giving Alliance has, just kind of accelerated our learning and our journey in this path. And we want to kind of help, organizations in this space to do better, leverage technology, and then just do more of things that, these organizations are here for.
Great. Well, thank you.
Thanks, Ezra. Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.